Welcome back. You're listening to Houston Real Estate Radio. If you've got a real estate question, give us a call, 281-882-8088. And just like we do every week, we video record all the segments so that you can find them online at HoustonRealEstateRadio.com. So if you miss any of today's show, jump online and you can watch the whole show there. I know you're gonna want to hear the whole thing. So we got great information coming to you from Chicago Title, great title company here in Houston. If you've got title questions, or if you're looking to buy a property and you have to put the title company on the contract, Chicago Title is a great one to use. Chicago Title over on Cypress Wood is the one that I like to use. Their number is 281-469-8200. Steve Sapio is back with us here in the studio. He was here last segment from Chicago Title. And let's, I want to go back, Steve, to surveys. We talked a lot about that last segment. And I want to ask you a question about that. We talked about being able to use the survey from a previous transaction, one that a seller had, 5-10 years down, when they bought it, and pass it forward to the next buyer. And in a neighborhood that's okay to do. But there is a form that needs to be signed, a T-47, right? Tell us about that document. What is it? What does it mean?
It's a document the title company uses to determine and get a statement basically from that seller that he has not added any improvements to that property, especially those that may affect encroachments into the easement, building lines, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Pools are the first thing I think of.
Pools, yeah. Concrete patio. Shed with a concrete pad out back.
Yeah.
So if any major changes, they need to declare that on that form and be honest about what they're putting on there, right?
That would be important, yes.
So the T-47, I know sometimes the realtors are the ones giving these to the clients, but they do need to be notarized, right?
Yes, ma'am. Also, what I was going to add to that is when you have removable sheds, or you just said, something on skids. For the most part, if it can be moved, we're not going to have an issue too much with that. But fixed, permanent improvements.
It's on a slab.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. We talked a little bit last segment about title policies. We talked about surveys, and we touched on divorce a little bit and how that affects the real estate transaction. I know you guys, you've had a lot of headaches from not knowing people are getting a divorce until they get to the title company.
Yeah, it's happened a few times.
All right. So, the best thing to do, I guess, is to let people know up front. Let your realtor know. Your realtor has your confidence. They're not going to tell the buyers, so you just need to let them know up front. And then when you close on the house, what determines who's getting the money?
The final decree.
And if they're not divorced and they're just separated, what do you use?
We usually shy away from doing that transaction altogether. It's a rough situation. You when somebody's agreed and they're in the process of getting a divorce, you don't know what's going to happen until you have a final decree. And any of the files that I work, I'm not gonna just go by what somebody says. They're gonna. So
do you put the whole amount in a joint, like a joint account, just deposit all the money into a joint account, or you just hold off until you have a decree to go by?
I would make them both sign off on it.
Yeah.
In their joint account. Mm-hmm. But okay. I don't close all the time. But
all right. Let's talk a little bit about if you inherit a property. Boy, inheriting a property sounds like a great thing because it could be worth a lot of money, but it could also be worth a lot of headaches, couldn't it?
Yes, especially the larger estates.
Yeah. So on inherited properties, a lot of times, not a lot of times, you pretty much need to probate the will, right? If there's a will, you have to probate it, don't you?
Yeah, that's the only way to make it effective.
Is to probate the will?
Run through the probate court. There's other ways. You can bring it before a court and have it filed as a muniment of title. That's one other way.
Okay. A lot of people out there listening are going to be running into this. A lot of baby boomers listen to the program, and they're preparing for inheriting these properties of their parents and what they have to do next with them. What advice would you give them, or what would you tell them to do to be prepared for this? Is there anything you can do to be prepared before it happens?
Yes, if you have, my first thoughts are if I have children outside the marriage, a second marriage, that sort of thing, and I want them taken care of, I'd want to have a will.
Okay, so have a will. That's
different
important.
Types of assets that you have that you want going in different directions, then that's most important.
Okay.
If you've been married one time and you have 2 kids and they're of that marriage and you're going to give everything to your kids, pretty much the way the state of Texas is going to recognize it. So that's not really that important.
For people like that, do they need a will? Is it okay? Not that do they need it, but is it okay not to have it?
For real estate purposes, yes.
Okay. Good. All right. Very good. So let's talk a little bit about bankruptcy. How does that affect the real estate transaction?
Well, once you file bankruptcy, your assets are in the control of the bankruptcy trustee. So you'll want to get. What we will do is require that we either have approval from the trustee
to sell it.
That's right, or that there's documentation in the docket that allows them to sell as the debtor in possession.
Okay.
Those are the first two things that we would look for.
And if it sells under bankruptcy, where do the proceeds go? Do they go to the trustee?
Trustee.
Okay, and then they disperse
make the
them.
dispersion, yes.
Okay, all right. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? I know you had a lot of things here on your list. Let's see. If I have a tract of land, this is a great question. If I have a tract of land but don't know where there's legal, or if there's legal access, is that something to be concerned about?
Yeah, that's very important. Because if once it closes and we've done the examination, that policy is going to guarantee access. So we're going to be accepting that it does not have legal access if we don't have a means of either by way of an easement or direct. It's adjacent to a dedicated right-of-way. So you want to make sure, and that's looking at your survey will tell you obviously you're either abut a dedicated roadway or do you have adjoining owners all around you that you're going to have to get access from. And that's anybody who wants to develop property and under those conditions needs to be working on this ahead of time because they want to get those access easements. Trying to do them at the last minute is usually a problem.
All right, let's talk about entities like LLCs and corporations and trust. Entities are a little bit different than a trust, or do they pretty much operate the same? Yeah,
they're different. It's an LLC, a corporation, partnership. What you want to turn in immediately is your those authority docs. We call them authority docs. It can be a corporate resolution, operating agreement, whatever documentation that identifies with that entity who has the right to act.
And any entity can purchase property in Texas?
Sure.
Okay.
You want to make sure you want to make sure you have all the amendments as well, because we're going to look to see who's signing that contract. And if you're turning in authority docs and the individuals that we find are supposed to be signing don't match, there's going to be a phone call involved.
Get on it. That's right. All right. Let's talk about the trust. Trust can purchase properties as well, and sometimes people. Property goes into a trust upon a death or something like that, right?
Yeah,
so,
sure.
So do you, when you're working with a trust, when you either inherited something through a trust or you are having one created to hold something, what are the issues that you see with buying and selling through trust?
The two that we come in contact the most is what is called a testamentary trust. Probate a will, and an individual has created a trust within that will. Okay, and typically the independent executor will have the power over the trustee to administer that estate, which is first priority. But you'll have a trustee that can administer just like any other trust.
They can sign everything.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, if you're creating a trust and you're putting title in a trust, we're going to want either the trust agreement or a trust certificate of trust. Now, if it were me, I would strongly suggest that you go to your attorney and get a certificate of trust. That's the quickest way to keep your body of your trust together with yourself, not have to give it out, you just give a certificate of trust, and we would go with that.
Okay. All right. Very good. And lastly, title policies. I know you recommend every buyer get a title policy. Are there additional coverages that they need to know about besides just your normal title policy?
Sure. There's additional coverages for encroachers, minerals, restrictions, violations of restrictions.
We could do a whole show just on minerals, couldn't we?
Oh, yeah. No, believe me, that would. Yeah, we don't want to do that.
There's so much, there's just so much going on over there at the title company. Y'all have so much to worry about. I'm glad you have to worry about it and not me. I just help them find the property, get into it, and make it all go very smoothly to the end while you work behind the scenes and take care of all these details.
It's a passion.
All right, Steve Sapio over at Chicago Title. We appreciate you coming on the show. Chicago Title over on Cypress Wood. Their number is 281-469-8200. Lots of great folks over there to help you with your real estate transaction. If you're buying or selling, you can ask to use Chicago Title. That number again, 281-469-8200. We'll be right back here on Houston Real Estate Radio.